Hi, I'm Rigger, this is You Alright, and today we're not wasting any time, so strap yourselves in. Here's the YouTube things, and we're going to continue looking down the path of the Avatar. Last time, we met the warriors of Kyoshi and Sokka learned some important lessons. Now we're once again on the run. Looking at the episode title, this week we are going to visit the King of Omashu, apparently. So, to watch me get my pronunciation fixed and then forget it and say it wrong again, let's jump into it. I'll be back with you in just a second after the episode. See you then. Alright, I'm back, and that was the King of Omashu, and I think I got the pronunciation right, so yeah, look at me. Since this is a review, you probably already know the story, but we'll do it anyway, where Aang takes the gang to the city of Omashu, where he used to have a friend, and he would visit all the time. The friend's name was Bumi, who was a bit of a crazy kid, and, they visit to check it out. Things seem a bit tense, and, they decide that it would be best for Aang to go in disguise. Disguise gets him through the gate, but it turns out they went there because Omashu has an awesome mail and transport system around the city, which uses earthbending combined with giant slides to send around mail, packages, and whatever else is needed around the city. Pretty cool. And of course, Aang being Aang, he just wants to ride it because it's something he did when he was a kid. When it's something he did all that time ago, even though it was, not that long ago for his mind, but whatever. And they do that, things go awry, they get caught by the guards, they get taken to the king, who is also crazy. Funny about that. Anyway, and then they realize he's the Avatar. Wonder how they figured that out. And then the king puts him through a series of threatening tests that are supposed to be deadly, but yeah. And, as Aang learns that he has to approach each test differently than it first appears. Your obvious answers aren't the answer. In the end, he has to fight the king himself, which, again, was a trick. And after proving himself worthy, the king obviously reveals that he is a very old, now, Bumi, and gives some sage life advice and sends them on their way. So that's the main story. What do I think of the episode? Well, it was very... When it first started, and they visited the town, and they did, the little disguise joke, and other jokes that didn't really land, and then they went to the city, and I was like, this feels filler. It feels like, what am I gonna get out of this? And I will say, even to thinking that, when they got to the city, the incorporation of earthbending into everyday life and the function of the city is still fantastic. It's such a great, well thought out use of, an element of your world. It really, really shows forward planning and thinking when they went, okay, if we're going to write a story where these things exist in the world, how would you use them? Everyday life, how would you set up cities? Not just that, you can't get through the walls without earthbending, but, it uses this complex mail system, and we see in the combat later all the interesting ways you can use it. I was really excited to see earthbending, especially when we got the duel at the end, because I've heard from other people that have talked about this show that, I've heard multiple people say that their favorite style is earthbending, and I was thought, why, not that I doubted it, I just didn't have great examples, and things like, thinking outside the box, not just throwing big rocks, because they do that, but, making the ground become unstable and move into sand, or, traveling through the sand itself, these are really interesting ways of not just doing the obvious, which is kind of the lesson of this entire episode, right? Think outside the box. And, obviously the Bumi thing's very obvious, his design is, the same. I used to know this guy who was crazy, and then this old guy who's, really, really old, and probably would be about 112 years later, also acts crazy, and he just happened to know I was the Avatar. It's very obvious to an adult audience, and it probably would be obvious to most kids, but it's still, even with the setup, it's fun when he says, I'm going to put you through deadly tests, and I will say that the creeping rock, the creeping crystal, even though it ends up being, non-threatening, for a setup, it's pretty intense. It's it's a proper torture, deadly, slow-killing fate setup, which is quite interesting. I will say, so the whole thing with the deadly tests is they aren't really deadly, right? If in the combat he wouldn't have killed him if he lost, or you can assume so, and he assumes he knows enough to survive. In the one with the Flopsy one with the great big animal, and you're trying to get Flopsy and it chases you and you think it's trying to kill you, turns out it is Flopsy and it's quite harmless and it's just a big lovable teddy bear almost. Great. The one with the key, with the one with the key in a waterfall over a rock with a ladder, and you're supposed to try and get to it. That one could legitimately kill you if you mess it up. If you tried to do what he initially does, which is climb the ladder and then get pushed down by the water, if you hit the stalagmites coming from the floor, you would legitimately die. So that one, you have to, yes, think outside the box to solve it, but wasn't as safe as perhaps the others were in reality. But yeah, the only thing that I know that there's a pattern to it, you have to learn them in order, or supposedly, but you know, his old best friend is the king of Omashu, and he says the strongest earthbender there, and he doesn't teach him any earthbending, and I'm like, I get that there's like a pattern to it or whatever. I hope we come back to him when we get to earthbending then, because he's very good and a friend, so you know, that would be great to see. Oh, and yeah, I finally, I didn't realize that a lot of the memes and jokes from this show are from early episodes. Like, I thought some of them would be deeper, you know, I'd be waiting until season 3 to get to the cabbages joke. But no, I got the cabbages guy, so you know, he might pop up again, I guess, but yeah. I get the cabbages joke, and they did it 3 times, so, you know, yeah, that's comedy pacing. I don't think a lot of the jokes landed this episode, but they had a lot more, and I was impressed, because, like, even the king making puns, lettuce leaf, like, you know, great. I like, at least you're mixing it up. I really, if you're gonna do, you know, like, heaps of jokes all episode, at least they're different. There was one joke in here that felt super, well, it's a type of joke that's been around forever, but it reminded me of modern jokes, because it was when they were on the railcart system, and the captain of the guard says, "You need to be ready for anything, man," and then they bounce into frame for 1 second, and it's freeze frame, and it goes ding, and then they fly off again. And just the freeze frame and ding, it's like, this is like YouTube jokes, you know? Yeah, I can do it. Ding! Yeah. But, you know, I know that type of joke's been out. It's like, you can find that in Looney Tunes and stuff. It just reminded me of that. The cart scene, like the riding scene, was really well done. The animation was excellent, but it did go on for quite a while. By the time we got to the last third of it, I was like, alright, can we crash already? Can we get to the end of this? But, you know, they still did it a lot with what they could have, but I also would have liked, the fight was pretty good, but I could have done with the trials or whatever being more detailed or longer, or having a bigger talk with Bumi at the end and shorten down that sequence. But I do like that we end going back to that sequence where he and Bumi ride it again. That's pretty cool. So overall, I did think it was still a bit of a filler episode, but I did like the way it was executed as a filler episode, so that's fine. We didn't gain anything. Although, I will say, I guess, supposedly we gained knowledge. It all depends how they reincorporate it later. Because that was a big note I put down, is he says, you know, if you want, you know, you'll have to defeat the Fire Lord at the end of this. And to do that, you'll need to think outside the box, basically. And I know that the showdown with the Fire Lord does eventually happen. I'm assuming at the end of the whole show. But I do know that is a thing. And I want, in that fight, to get a flashback to this episode. And have him think outside the box. Like, I want that to actually carry through. And it'll be a long time till I find out if it does, but I do hope so. And the other thing I noticed is he says, you'll need that to defeat the Fire King. And then as a joke, well, not as a joke, but he quips, oh, and you'll need Momo too. I'm still wondering if Momo is like a secret spiritual agent or something. I'm just saying, he said he'll need Momo too. And I made this comment at the Air Temple episode. When they made the comment about how am I supposed to contact the avatars, and Momo runs in. Yeah, I got my eye on you, Momo. I see you. Look at him. He's obviously the key to everything. What was the quote? Yeah, think like an evil genius, that's what he said. But anyway, you get my point. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I don't have 20 minutes of material to talk about like I did last time, but I still really enjoyed it. I like the mixing up of the jokes, even if they don't all land for me. I appreciate the different styles. The Bumi thing was obvious, but at least it was fun to get there. The trials were interesting. I really liked the Flopsy twist. That was a good one. Picking like him to fight and he's actually awesome is an obvious twist. And using airbending to get the key, not the obvious ways, that's an obvious one as well. But the Flopsy one I liked. And I did really like our first showcase of earthbending. I hope a lot of this gets reincorporated because it would turn this episode, into something with a lot more value if it came back later. Like, it would, retroactively make this much more important. And I hope we see Bumi again at some point. So, yeah, I think that's what I have to say for this episode. even though the Boomy twist was obvious, it was really nice to see Aang have a friend, and like, you know, at the end where he sort of runs into his arms, they give each other a hug. Like, that was actually really nice, and it's why I hope he's back in the show at some point, because giving Aang a point of contact with anyone who actually knew him is, you know, actually a lot bigger than, you know, you think it would be. To be in a world completely alone and having to meet everyone new and, you know, feeling very alone. The Last Airbender, you know, no one I know is alive, and then you find someone, you know, you could make that a really big thing. So, we'll see where they go with it. Until next time, remember that, you know, I don't have any life lessons to give you this week, but I do have the lottery numbers coming up. So, just for your future, take this down. It's 14, 21, Hey, my cabbages! Until next time, my name is Rigo. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.